he's about to step down, waves again, more cheers in the distance from the folks who are here representing families of the 171st. Coming down behind him, Pennsylvania U.S. Senator Bob Casey for this visit to Pittsburgh. President giving waves, small thumbs up to those he's approaching, and as he reaches the base there, he is greeted by Pittsburgh Mayor Bill Peduto, Allegheny County Executive Rich Fitzgerald, and as we said, Colonel Hess, the acting wing commander here for the 171st. The President has a busy schedule. He'll be traveling in a motorcade from Pittsburgh International Airport with rolling closures from here into Pittsburgh and into the Larimer area, the Bakery Square development. He'll be viewing some of the operations there, some of the tools made available. He'll also be taking some questions to that restricted gathering there about his programs, about his plans. We were mentioning before that the White House had, in advance of this, put out a challenge to mayors and local government leaders across the country to do what they can to make resources available to incur innovation and to help entrepreneurs in the area of manufacturing. Mayor Bill Peduto is among the 90 mayors across the country taking part in that. You may recall recently that he met with some local people involved in the Workfare program and with local innovators to see what can be done in conjunction with that effort to encourage students, also encourage young people to become involved in manufacturing and innovation. There are special programs that are available at area libraries to help students in what are called STEM programs, science, technology, engineering, and math, to prepare them for being involved in those jobs in the future. There you see the President continuing to stand with and chat with Senator Casey, with the Colonel, with the Mayor, with the County Executive. Now we see him walking further, waving a bit more. We'll see if he takes a moment to approach the crowd here. He's taking off his coat because of the heat, and it does appear as though he will take a moment to greet those people who have gathered here. President waving, calling out to them, and as he approaches, there are folks moving forward. There we see a woman shaking his hand, other folks gathering around, rise of cameras to take photos as the President greets and chats with those folks before heading to East Liberty. The President's contact here is we know something that's much valued and treasured by the folks who come out. They don't know when they arrive here if his schedule will allow him to take the time to stop, to greet, to interact, but that is what he's doing here, and typically he spends a few moments to thank those in the Guard for their service and to greet their families. We saw at least one family that had a babe in arms, so there might be some presidential baby kissing here before the President takes off. So to continue with some of the information about the President's manufacturing and innovation initiatives, one of the things that we're going to be hearing more about, and the President's revealing in conjunction with his visit to Pittsburgh today, is this plan to share federal resources on an available basis with innovators across the country. Now, we're not just talking about meeting space or some shop equipment. We're talking about, with proper clearance, access to NASA testing facilities. We're talking about access to Department of Energy innovation laboratories. These resources and even supercomputer programs may have moments of downtime. They will be setting up a program through executive order that entrepreneurs, business people who are developing new concepts that could give America an edge in manufacturing will have a chance to test, to proof, to prototype their efforts using that access to government facilities. That is part of the President's message as he's here in Pittsburgh today. More than once he has used Pittsburgh and the economic strengths and the traditions of Pittsburgh to send that message and to use Pittsburgh as a showcase for what can and is being done across America. Again, what happens in Pittsburgh is being used to showcase what can be done for the rest of the country. Pittsburgh has had a history of being a strong base of older steelmaking and manufacturing, going through hard times decades ago, and Pittsburgh's reinventing of itself with high technology, the meds and eds, medical institutions and institutions of higher education, creating a high-tech base in Pittsburgh. Well, one more wave and another round of cheers from the crowd for the President, who, given the Pittsburgh heat for the day, has already shed his suit coat He's stepping into the limousine that will take him to Bakery Square and to his visit to the Larimer area for his appearance at Tech Shop. Secret Service getting in position. Will be closing up the doors shortly, and the motorcade will include the mayor, the county executive, the senator, and others as they make that tour and help the president send that message. So that's the scene here now at Pittsburgh International Airport.